Hey guys, Steven here, Fanatic Perspective. So, Western Conference Finals, Game 1 recap. Golden State Warriors defeat the Houston Rockets by 13 points. And yeah, Houston's down already in a 0-1 hole as the overall number one seed. Golden State has now seized home court advantage in the series, but still a lot of basketball left to be played. I did have the Warriors um, overall in the series in 6 games, and tonight just reaffirmed that for me. It was an excellent, high intensity basketball game. I really enjoyed it. The Rockets came out with a ton of energy. The crowd was involved. James Harden was sensational. But as the TNT gang, pretty much all of them, whether it was Shaq, Kenny, Chuck, even down to Reggie and C. Webb, Harden was just exerting too much energy in the one-on-one game and the ISO game to get buckets. And even though he was scoring, it's not a sustainable way of playing basketball. And yes, Houston has feasted on that all year. And yes, James Harden hasn't had to work that hard to get buckets, but they haven't played defensive teams like the Warriors. And yes, they had success against the Warriors in the regular season, even though, they weren't necessarily at full strength. And to be honest with you, they're not going to show their hand defensively in the regular season. I think it's very, very clear to everyone, if you've been paying any attention to the Warriors, that, they were on cruise control the last half of the season. I mean, whether you like it or not, they have flipped a switch. We saw that in the Pelicans series. The Pelicans were a very dangerous team, and they dispatched them with relative ease. Tonight, as well as James Harden played, as intense as the game was, they weren't super competitive in the second half. And this was a game that was tied at halftime. This is a game, I believe it was 56 all at halftime, and James Harden had 24 points. And it's a tie game. They have no one to guard Kevin Durant. I'll get to him in a second. But Golden State, as everyone pointed out, and it's very easy to see even if you're a casual basketball fan, Golden State does not have to work nearly as hard to get buckets. They run their offense. All 5 guys are live and involved. Very similar to what I was talking about with Boston, only this is way more high level than even what Boston's doing. Boston's cool because all 5 guys are involved. Golden State's even better because 4 of their guys are studs, and their shots are they're getting layups and dunks. If not, they get excellent mid-range play from Kevin Durant, and then if not, we have 2 all-time shooters, to deploy, and we have a playmaker in the middle of all that, and Draymond, who will move the ball appropriately as he sees fit. It's very, very difficult to defend. Whereas Houston, on the other hand, as talented as they are, when everything breaks down and when stuff starts hitting the fan, it's either James Harden isolation, Chris Paul isolation, hold the ball. They had so many shot clock violations, and then you're asking guys, and everybody's upset, oh, all these dudes didn't make shots. I'm sorry, how am I supposed to make shots consistently if I'm not touching the basketball, I'm not involved, I'm not, when's the last time you saw PJ Tucker or anybody else get rewarded? And this is, to me, again, this whole series is a referendum on Mike D'Antoni. And I've been very, very critical of him as a coach in terms of I talk about this all the time when I do basketball videos, being a championship level coach. I do not believe Mike D'Antoni is a championship level coach because I don't think he'll make the necessary adjustments to get people involved. Kenny made a comment after the game in the post game, for those of you who watched it, saying, is Houston going to do what is needed to take to be uncomfortable? To do basically, we've been a plan A team all year where we've run our stuff no matter what, blah, blah, blah. Are they willing to get other people involved, run plays for other folks, just to give Golden State multiple looks, make them defend in pick and rolls, make them defend even on post-ups, utilizing the whole floor instead of just, spacing in threes and run outs and all that stuff. What else are you going to show in terms of a dynamic ability to really, really make Golden State defend, because you look at all Golden State's defensive lapses were, hey, we got beat by James Harden off the dribble. It's going to happen to everybody else. But there's nothing that they did that was tricking them or was confusing. Steve Kerr made a very simple adjustment, as they noted in the game, where he moved Draymond Green to weak side to help defend against the Capella lob. And that was, to me, that's the biggest thing that Golden State really had to worry about coming into the series, because you're going to let James Harden he's going to get his shots and he's going to get his points. And is he going to have another 40-point? Because you've seen his numbers after game one, because he gets tired. It's a fatigue thing too. You're asking so much of him. I expect Chris Paul to have a game like that some point in this series. And the reason why I think it's going to go 6 games, and I anticipate the Rockets winning game 2, because they're going to have a game where they make 23s, where no matter how contested Golden State, how hard Golden State contests their shots, they're going to go in. That's just the way basketball goes. But this isn't, if they don't win game 2, then this could be a sweep. Because Golden State, and that's that. To me, I've focused almost too much offensively so far. Houston has to play defense. They have to figure out something to slow down this monster. They can't give up 119, 120 points a game, or else they will get swept regardless of how many threes they hit, because they have to, and if you watch, there was a play where Harden made an unbelievable play. I don't know if it was a 3. I wish I had LeBron's recall the photographic recall, but there was a play where Harden made an unbelievable offensive play. They come down and he's guarding Clay, and Clay runs. They set a back screen for him. He gets a quick layup right at the rim, and James Harden is sucking wind, and it's like, yeah, you made a great play offensively. You still got to come back this way and play defense on Klay Thompson, or if they run a screen, you got to get switched on Kevin Durant, or you got to get switched on Steph Curry. So one of those things that when you get in, you're having to guard all these guys, it's very, very difficult to put up 40-something points and play great defense and get your teammates involved. That's where the coach has to help you out. And that's why I said this series is not just, I know a lot of people are putting a lot of pressure on James Harden, deservedly so. A lot of pressure on Chris Paul, deservedly so. Chris Paul, by the way, that brother, he does not know how to take an L. I swear to you, man, I was like, man, he's got that mentality. If we don't win the game, we're going to win the fight. Because, he elbowed KD in his ass. Then he's going to get into a situation with Draymond. I already know Draymond, did the elbow thing. But, Chris Paul, he's a mean little dude. And the physicality in which he was playing with, even at the end when the game was out of reach, the fouling and whatnot, I thought it was very, very interesting how he responded versus his other teammates who kind of conceded. Maybe there could be some friction there in the series that you have to pay attention to if you're Houston. The other thing I want to note before I end this is what adjustments do you make if you're Houston? Are there certain people that maybe need to be reinserted into the rotation? One thing we know historically is when Mike D'Antoni senses trouble in a playoff series, he'll shorten up his rotation to 7 dudes and play everybody else 38 minutes. How do you get? But again, whether it's PJ Tucker, Balmute, Trevor Ariza, we know Trevor Ariza got into foul trouble. That play was huge when they called that blocking foul on him with Andre Iguodala. It was huge. Took him out of the game. He was pretty much done after that. He had a couple buckets, late in the fourth quarter, garbage time type stuff, but he was out. He was out of the game. The other play that was huge was Steph Curry. Again, didn't have a great game. Kind of looked still a little unhealthy, but he battled. He had some plays where it was kind of embarrassing for him defensively. Houston was definitely picking on him. It was the key for D'Antoni, and I expect him to go back to that game too. But there were several plays where he fought through, got a deflection. There was one play where he got a deflection, got his hand on the ball, out-hustled James Harden, threw the ball between 2 people, and then get a dunk to Iguodala, push the lead to 8. Those are championship plays. Those are the plays you don't see from Houston, but you see them all over the place from Golden State. in conjunction with the easy baskets, in conjunction with the great defense. Golden State fights really hard, man. So we'll see how it goes. The other thing, just real quick, the officiating today was atrocious on both ends. The NBA, I mean, we can't. I don't want to see this, and I don't want to see this come NBA Finals either. They've got to get the officiating together. Scott Foster, I believe it was, he was atrocious tonight. The inconsistency with the shooting foul, whether it was KD or James Harden, where he got the call. Then you have the backcourt situation where the ball clearly goes off of Klay Thompson to the backcourt. No Rockets player was even near. I think James Harden may have been the closest player, and they missed the call, and it turns into a 3-point swing. Where Golden State goes back up 10 when they should have been down 7, potentially more if Houston gets the ball. Those are the types of things you can't have, and those are just 2 quick ones. I mean, there was a lot of questionable fouls. Even the Chris Paul letting that thing go. The way the handle, they didn't have a good handle on this basketball game. There was even one with PJ Tucker where I don't think it looked like he plucked KD. They didn't even show us a replay, but it looked like he plucked KD, and they called a foul when they're like almost down court. I mean, it's just like I said, on both ends, the officiating was atrocious tonight, and that needs to be addressed going into Game 2. Hopefully, we get a good officiated game tomorrow night in the Eastern Conference Finals Game 2, Cleveland Boston. But we'll see. But I'm enjoying doing these recap videos, just giving my 2 cents on these games. This one was pretty straight up and down, though, guys. I mean, for anyone that watched the game, Golden State didn't have to work too hard to get their buckets. Typical Golden State performance. And, Houston just has to work between their 2 guys. They got to work too hard. They got to get everybody involved. D'Antoni's got to make some adjustments, something we have not seen from him in the past. And that's why the heat's on him and James Harden and Chris Paul this series. So we'll see. As always, we'll be back with more content. You guys let me know in the comments what you think about the games, how this series is going to play out, and predictions and conversation as always. Thank you.